In fact, the amount of information pouring into the NSA may already be overloading the system, as General Mike Hayden found out soon after he was appointed director in 1999.
It was a Monday night. I got a phone call at home about 8 o'clock from our SOO, our security operations officer in our 24-hour operations center. And he told me that our computers were down.
The NSA has 9 acres of computers.
I went through a series of questions in kind of disbelief, saying, how many computers are down? And the answer was, all of them.
It was January 2000, and while most of the East Coast was digging out of a surprise snowstorm, Hayden told his staff on closed-circuit TV just what was at stake.
And then I said to them, look, this is secret. This cannot be the second half of the sentence that begins, honey, you won't believe what happened to me at work today. Because the knowledge that we were down would increase the risk significantly to Americans around the world.
The computers were down for 3.5 days.
NSA headquarters was brain dead. We had some residual ability at our locations around the world, but I don't want to trivialize this. This was really bad.
Yeah, the biggest problem that NSA faced, stems from the technological revolution of the 1990s, which was marked by the dramatic upswing in the use of cellular telephones and greater use of fiber optic cables to carry internet and other forms of communications. The volume of communications around the world jumped almost 800% between 1990 and the end of the decade.
And that means that NSA has a much larger set of communications to sort through, and it has to come up with ways to either more discreetly target what it wants to know, or what communications links it really wants, or it has to come up with a much better way of processing the information it collects. And how well they're doing that is something that's very hard to say from the outside.
We're behind the curve in keeping up with the global telecommunications revolution. Yes, we are. And that's the challenge we have.
The spy network was conceived, after all, as a response to a far different kind of war.
In a previous world order, our primary adversary was the Soviet Union, an oligarchic, slow-moving nation-state. Our adversary communications are now based upon the developmental cycle of a global industry that is literally moving at the speed of light. Cell phones, encryption, fiber optic communications, digital communications, it goes on and on. Just think of all the ways that you and your viewers communicate. Okay? Those are all available to people who would do harm to the United States of America.
In fact, it has been relatively easy for Al-Qaeda to avoid detection.
Osama bin Laden has at his disposal the wealth of a $3 trillion a year telecommunications industry that he can rely on.
In addition to trying to monitor the trillions of bits of information on the internet, the NSA has had to cope with the challenge of fiber optic cable.
That is much more difficult for NSA to intercept because they have to, first of all, get access to the cables, either under the ocean or under the ground, and then they have to develop ways to extract the communications from them. They are able to do it. They found ways to do it, but it is far more complicated and far less efficient.
It's known that the U.S. is remodeling or building a submarine whose mission would be to tap fiber optic cables, but that hasn't been actually commissioned or launched yet.
Dealing with more sophisticated forms of encryption is also clogging up the spy system.
Very good encryption is available out there for anyone willing to purchase it. And so we run into that.
They could probably break a lot of this encryption, but it takes a lot of time. It's very time-consuming. It's very manpower-intensive, so it's very difficult.
The NSA and its English-speaking partners have just begun to address those problems.
Since the 2001 computer crash, NSA has spent billions of dollars in the last 2 years to repair its tattered infrastructure. It's purchased new computer systems, new software. It's hired, thousands of new personnel in an effort to make sure that this sort of crash will never happen again.
As the world tries to fight the war on terror, the effort to update the NSA has become even more critical. While signals intelligence is not infallible, it is a crucial first line of defense against another terrorist attack like 9/11. While the European Parliament downplayed concerns about economic spying, it did issue a warning about Echelon and its threat to civil liberties. The report urged European governments to protect their citizens by ensuring that private phone calls and correspondence remain confidential. The report was approved on September 5th, 2001, just 6 days before the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Since then, privacy has taken a back seat to security, and intelligence gathering tools like Echelon have been on the front lines of a new kind of war. For the History Channel, I'm Arthur Kent. Thanks for watching.